Hello and welcome. Today we are going to go ahead and take a look at the Stroud Corvette. So, this is the next ship in my Corvette series, which is a set of ships that are supposed to be small, lightweight, uh, no real concerns about range or cargo space. I just want to have something that can put out some firepower. You might also consider a Corvette to be a or a fighter equivalent. Starfield doesn't really do fighter ships very well without some specific mods, so this is kind of the next best thing that you can get. Now, this particular ship is making use of the ship flip glitch. However, there are no mods needed to build it, and it's built entirely out of parts that you can get here at Stroud Eklund. So you can just come on over to the Stroud Eklund Star Yard and get everything that you need to put this ship together. It is a Class A ship, super lightweight. Let me just continue moving around. And we've got basically a single 3x1 hab, and that's about it. So let's go ahead, take a quick look at how to build it, and then see how well it performs in combat. Okay, so now that we're docked, let's go ahead and get up. Alright, so you can see I'm using the Viking bridge. Come on back here, and we find ourselves immediately in the Stroud 3x1 all-in-one berth. Got a window in the back, here's a bathroom, 4 beds, and then a ladder going down. What's down here? We have a 1x1 companionway. On one side we have the landing bay access, and on the other side we have our docker. That is it. So now let's come on over to Havershaw.
Havershaw can help you if you need anything.
Nice to see you again. Oh, you've come to the right place.
Alrighty. So you can see right away, I've got 450 mass and 180 top speed because I've got these white dwarf engines on. And there's not a whole lot going on with this ship. Oh, I forgot to color it after modification. Oh well. So let me get my colors in my palette. You can see I basically went black and gold. At least that was my attempt. And now let's go ahead and select all and delete. So for this ship, I have the landing bay, and then I have a companionway, and then I'm going to come on over here and grab my docker, and then I'm going to grab that 3x1 all-in-one, and then whatever the best Viking cockpit you have available is. There you have it. That is all the habitable portions of this ship. So let's go ahead now and grab my landing gear. So I'm using the AccuLander 11. I'm using the mid variation, and I am putting 2 of them on here. Now I will note that if I were to go ahead and mix in other manufacturers for kind of small parts, I would go ahead and look at swapping this out with the NG20 landing gear wide, and then use a Deimos belly on the back just to kind of smooth that shape out a little bit. And then the other thing I would consider doing is swapping this for a 2x1 and using something for smoothing that back shape out again. Alright, enough about that. Let's go ahead and grab our reactor and grav drive. Now for this ship, I just needed the R2000 Alpha grav drive. I did not need anything more than that. And I'm placing that right up here behind the docker and on the top shelf and one back. On the other side of that, I'm going to go ahead and grab my reactor. Now, one of the things that we find here, so I could go ahead and grab the Spheromac reactor, and that is honestly the better choice. Spheromac's straight up better than the Tokamak that I chose to use instead, in basically every single way except for a little bit of hull. So it's really your choice on which one of these you want to use. For this, I'm actually going to go ahead and swap to that Spheromac reactor, because that's actually going to give me enough power to power all of my weapons. I had originally been thinking about swapping things around and using the Tokamak, but really use whatever the best reactor you can. Next up, let's go ahead and grab the fuel tanks. Now for this ship, I grabbed a single H10 fuel tank, placed right above the landing bay. Note this here is going to get flip glitched in under a cowling, so you will not see it. On the other side, I'm going to go ahead and grab the 60S protector shield generator. Again, I probably should swap that out for the deflector SG60. However, I will note this is requiring 8 power versus 9 power for 50 more shield. So, up to you on which one you want to do. I had originally used the 60S because I could stick it on top of my ship, and I would continue to use this if I wanted to go ahead and not use the flip glitch. So the non-flip glitch version would have this setting on top, and instead of this fuel tank, I would just go ahead and grab the 400G and just kind of stick that back here. All right, next up, engines. For this ship, I need 2 White Dwarf 3015s. That's it. No other engines. This one's going to get connected right here, but it's going to connect on the underside of a Stroud cowling, not directly to the back of the reactor. So let's now go on over to these structural components. First thing I'm going to need is I'm going to need a Stroud cap. And then I'm going to flip it and get all 4 variants of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the 2 lower rear variants of it. And then verify that my engine is connected to it. There we go. Next up, let me go ahead and grab a Stroud cowling. And I'm going to flip that into place over the fuel tank. And then another Stroud cowling over the shield. Coming on to the back, let me go ahead and grab my porthole. And then I have a pair of Horizon weapon mounts. Finally, I have a braking engine stuck underneath the cockpit, connected directly to this companionway. Note here that if you wanted to, you could, instead of using this braking engine, use the Stroud Cap C. Nope, not. Sorry, Stroud Cap B, and flip that into place. And that's going to smooth out that line. However, it is going to cover the 2 weapon mounts that are on the chin of the cockpit. Originally, I had been using those weapon mounts, so that's why I used the braking engine instead. However, it's kind of up to you on whether you want to do that or not. The other thing that you could do here is you could go ahead and swap this companionway out for a 2x1 hab, like say an armory, or if you just want something that lets you do pretty much anything, a workshop, and then maybe stick a porthole on the front. Alrighty. So this is basically the ship. All that we have left now is the weapons. Now for this ship, you've got kind of two choices if you're playing on extreme difficulty. So you are, of course, going to choose the particle beams because this is a small, light ship. It cannot take a hit, so we need to take advantage of our fast speed to outrange our opponents and kite. So we can either go ahead and load up with particle beams and do something like 3 of the Vaporizer 35 autoprotons, 3 PBO50s, and then, Vanguard if you have them, or the PBO40s, and just load up in a way so that way you can dive in, unload with everything, and hope that's enough. That is a perfectly acceptable way to play if that's how you want to do it. What I did, however, is I went with the non-auto weapons, and I only filled out 2 of them. So I have Weapon 1 and Weapon 2 filled out, and with Aniatronic Fusion maxed out and the Spheromac Reactor, I'm able to fully power both of those weapons. So I can go ahead and just unleash and not have to worry about running out of ammo in my clip, which is perfect for kiting, and it still does enough damage if I get in close. So let me go ahead and put those PBO50s on. Well, PB50s, not PBO50s. And then the Vaporizer 35s. There we go. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and put weapons on the underside, we do have 2 weapon slots here. However, we can't just stick a weapon on because it doesn't fit. But we could go ahead and say stick on a Vanguard auto projector and then flip that into place underneath of it. It does slightly clip in, but that's the nature of the Stroud caps. Finally, before I continue any further, let's go ahead and say that I kind of like this ship design, but I don't want to play with, or I don't have Starship design. So what do I need to do? Well, first things first, we need to go ahead and swap our fuel out. And here I'm just going to grab the M30, though you could also go ahead and grab a Titan 550. Actually, Titan 550 doesn't expose itself, so sure, let's do that. On this side, let's go ahead and grab Deflector SG30. And then, of course, the big things, we have to swap engines and reactors. So, 134 mm, and then the question is, what reactor would we use? Or what engines would we use? So, if I come on over to the engines and say a pair of Ammon 3s, what ends up happening? Let me go ahead and delete this really quick. 67 mobility is what happens. However, I could go ahead and toss on some Ares DT30s. This is going to have 23 equip power, leaving 7 power left for some weapons, which is a little underwhelming. But, you take what you can get. Another option would be to go ahead And just toss a Stroud cowling in down there. And a pair of Ares DT-30s gets us 84 mobility, which is perfectly acceptable, to be honest. We could also do something like swap that out, and now we can fit an Ammon 3 on the back. And then by doing this, we also open up some space for a little bit of cargo. So those are all things that you could do with the general ship shape if you do not have Starship Design. All right. But let's go back to this thing. All right. So I need to go ahead and assign my weapons. Color my ship. And there we go. So let's go ahead, take her out for a spin, and see how she performs. And you can see with that anitronic fusion skill, I have enough reactor to power everything. You could get a little bit more power with, like, say, Vasco on board, but I don't like playing with the NPCs, so. Let us come on out to Serpentis. And a settler. Derelict carryall. Okay. Alright, let's see how long it takes somebody to show up. Okay, maybe nobody will show up. Have I hunted Serpentis out? And as you can see, without the auto weapons, I don't need to worry about running out of ammo. And it's still plenty of damage. However, one of the fun downsides is without running with any cargo, You can't go ahead and pick things up. Aw, 3 ship parts. Alright, fine. Nope, never mind. Not worth it. So, one of the things that I have found with these little Corvettes, if I'm running the White Dwarf engines, I don't need to kite as much as I have with some of my other lighter ships, because I am fast enough and maneuverable enough that I can get in behind things. However, if you end up going to, say, like the key or whatever, um, or you find yourself being overwhelmed, you still do have the option to get out of dodge. And you can see right there, they jumped in, but I'm already over 5k away, so they don't even see me. Looks like I got 3 enemy ships. I just jumped into patrol.
Are you prepared to face judgment?
And I could go ahead and kite with these guys, but let's just dive in and see what happens.
Taking damage. Disgusting accursed. Things are stable. We continue the fight.
And took some engine damage, so I am not, and that is what I mean. So, you still can end up in a situation, if you try and dive in with these, where you just get an unsurvivable encounter. On the other hand, you go ahead and demonstrate the kiting.
Are you prepared to face judgment?
Alright, so I want to slow down to about 150. Uh, there we go. So we can see this guy's closer, but we can go ahead and pour all of our firepower onto him while flying backwards away from him.
Accept your suffering, heathen! Lost the ground drive.
And they took out my engines. Perfect. So what ended up happening there is I outranged them, but they, because I was slowed down to kite, they boosted into range and got enough damage onto me.
Are you prepared to face judgment? Disgusting accursed.
So what I'm going to do this time is just, if I start taking more than, say, 50% shield damage, I'll turn around and boost away. Alright. One down, and almost two. Alright. Whee. And that is kiting done right. I didn't even take any damage that time. So, anyways, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all those YouTube things. And otherwise, I will see you in the next one.